everyone doing? Whoop, whoop. Great to be here. I'm Marianne Malina from 72 and Sunny. And we have this very scientific evaluation criteria at 72 when we're looking at ideas and opportunities. And we're basically like, is it a hell yeah or is it a hell no? And they're like, can you go out and do this panel with Candace and Alex and Ravi and Lara? Hell yeah, I can. Could not be more excited to be here. And when we got together to prep for this panel, it was really, really clear we were talking to the pioneers and the architects and the builders of what women's sports is today. And it's just such an honor to have you all here to share your wisdom, your knowledge, your experiences, your stories. And we want to hear it all. I think we're at a point in women's sports where there's so much momentum, there's so much interest, and people want to know how to get involved. And you all have created a different game, and people want to know how to do it. So that's the goal of today. How do we share our knowledge and share what's really different and the secret ingredient of this, which is women, by the way. I can say that. Woo, woo. Super awesome. But when we started this journey together a couple weeks ago, I went back and was talking to Glenn Cole, who's one of the founders of 72 and Sunny, and he was like, you know what I remember? Like 8 years ago, we were working on Adidas, and they were transitioning from impossible is nothing to this whole new universe of creators, and nobody knew what it was. Nobody knew how to articulate it. In advertising, we write ads, and athletes show up and buy into the idea and are in the ad. They don't partner with you on the ad. And so they were doing all these creative reviews, and Glenn was like, this is just not gonna cut it, y'all. We're not in the right zone. And he pulled up Candace's Instagram account, and he started going through her Instagram. And this is the ad that came from this moment in time, which I believe planted the seeds for women's sports today and what these people have built together. So we're gonna start by playing this Adidas ad. Please enjoy.
I'm Candace Parker, and I am a beast mom. Yeah. Kill him.
Come on.
She is now 16, so
Come here.
She is now 16, so this is nostalgic. That was unbelievable.
My mom
Down
is
memory
a
lane.
beast, right? I mean, literally the beginning. I'm here to create, like just even all of those seeds. But the thing that really stood out was one of the ingredients of women's sports that makes a difference is that we have been completely transparent about all the hats we wear as women, whether or not it's a mom or a founder or an athlete. We wear so many hats. And that was 8 years ago when we were just starting to communicate what women's sports was about. And out of that experience, we have created a community that is so loyal, so engaged, the fandom with the athletes is something that's super, super special. So I would just love to hear you all talk about what you've learned through these stages of remember that first time you got the call and a brand was really interested, and then all of a sudden, now you're Alex and you've started together and you've created a platform that's empowering all women, and you're investing money, you're doing things that you probably never thought you would be doing 8 years ago. And you've just begun. So I would love, Alex, we'll start with you. Let's talk about Together.
Yeah, Together is my media company that launched a little over 4 years ago for female athletes by female athletes. It's the largest women's sports brand on social media. And we're really proud of that. We also have some exciting news coming later this fall about partnering with other female athletes that are at the top of their game right now. But I really built it because I found that whenever I would go and be a part of a docuseries or be a part of anything, it was always a bunch of guys, and then it was like, oh, we got to lump in a female athlete, so let's add in Candace Parker, let's add in Alex Morgan. But it was always kind of an afterthought, and it was, we already have the creative set for you. All you have to do is show up and do your thing. And it was like, well, wait a second, why can't I have a say in this? Why can't I be the one who's dictating what I'm saying, what I'm doing, who this reaches? So I went out and built it.
Love it. Lara, down there. Lara's from Adobe, who happens to create the tools that most of us create with. How have you seen these tools be of service to women and telling their stories?
Yeah, well, first of all, it's so awesome to be here with great partners, 72 and Sunny, and these amazing ladies and my fellow CMO here. They're really not here for us, we were saying, but that's okay. We'll join in the fun. We'll ride off your coattails. So first of all, women in sports, I have a personal passion for it. I'm so thrilled that Adobe, we've been part of it, and what we realized is you want to have your own voice and you want to express your own creativity in your own way. And whether you're a little kid who's looking up to Alex and Candace and just want to be just like them, or if you're, an adult who's a fan, you want to be part of the fan experience. And so with our tools like Adobe Express, we can actually, we've partnered with NWSL, Valkyries, and even Adobe Women's FA Cup. So we're in it, and we are doing it, and we're saying, hey, all of you, come use our tools and create your own brand and your own expressions, and we're actually getting them in locker rooms where these ladies are like, probably, everybody get out of here, this is my time, but we're giving them a fan experience, which is only what Adobe can uniquely do, but because we support women's sports.
Love it. And Candace, 8 years ago you were starring in that ad, and now you're the president at Adidas basketball, women's basketball. Come on, that is hell yeah, an absolute hell yeah. When you see that and you look at what's going on in sports today, what are some of the tools or wisdom, or how would you guide brands and athletes today?
Well, first, I do want to say, I wore Adidas from the time I was 15 years old. They sponsored my high school team. And then I went to an Adidas college in the University of Tennessee. And then it was like a seamless transition to sign with 3 stripes out of college. And they were at the forefront of women's sports. I had a signature shoe my second year in the league, which was unprecedented at the time. And so to have a brand that... No. But I just say that because I think there's an intentionality that you have to have when you're partnering with brands that want to do what you want to do and help you accomplish what you want to accomplish. And then when my career ended, I didn't want to stop being a part of the brand. I wanted to continue to impact women's sports from a different perspective. And so to be able to have a partner like Adidas that wants to create content like this, and it really is about storytelling. Like anything we do, if you are able to make people feel, then you've accomplished your mission. Obviously, we're an apparel brand. We're a shoe company, so selling shoes is important. But I think you do that through impacting those athletes at 14, 15 years old. Like, my first pair of Adidas was the T-Max. Like, I was a big Tracy McGrady fan, and I had the exclusive pair. So, and then I've paired that with my experience in basketball. And so being able to kind of, build on the emotion of the athlete, but also make people feel when they watch this. And I think female athletes are so multi-hyphenated, faceted. We do a bunch of things in the household. We're the buyers in the household. So I think we're doing ourselves a disservice if we do not speak to not only the female audience, but also the female athlete.
Absolutely amazing. I was super fortunate to sit next to Candace at dinner last night, and she said something to me that really sat with me, which is we might have a goal to win a championship, and we win that championship, but that doesn't mean we don't want to win the next one, and we don't want to win the next one. And that next kind of mentality around winning, whether you're looking at it in business, whether you're looking at it in partnerships, in sports, it's a way to approach all of these things knowing that you're playing to win. playing to win. All right, Ravi. I thought it would be really awesome if we played the Aaliyah Boston
Let's do.
Zillow 72 work that also plays to this multi-hyphenated how we're doing storytelling. I think it's a beautiful example of how you take a brand and put it together with an athlete and an experience that is genuinely authentic to what everyone is going through. Let's play it.
Hey y'all, it's Leah Boston.
We are back with Zillow. It's hard to live out of a suitcase. I think it's time to buy my first home.
We're touring house. Let's go.
Okay, this is a sign. Oh my gosh, I get goosebumps.
Can I get a glass of Pinot Noir?
yeah.
Amy pose. Baddie.
To see you at the age of 22 looking for your own home, I'm so excited. Wow.
What she said, wow.
Let's go.
Tell us a little bit about this.
That is awesome. It's obviously a very deep and personal story that Alia is telling. She's just signed her first contract. She is getting her foothold in the space, but also is figuring out what's next for her. And she's a first-time home buyer. And so for several of us who have been through that journey, we know how hard it is to actually go through that process and get that home that you really, really want to make it is yours. And for us at Zillow, it is deeply personal. And we want these partnerships to be shared storytelling, like what Candace and Alex just said. Like, it's super important that we share those values and explain to our audiences how deeply personal these stories are. And when we take the emotion that comes with that journey, because there is hard work, there is heartbreak, and then there is triumph. And that's what, isn't that very human? And that's the story that we want to basically go tell in a very authentic way, because then that takes away the transactional nature of the equation and actually makes brands resonate deeply with our customers, partners, and so forth. So that's how we pursue these, and it's been an amazing journey just to go through those journeys with Aliyah and several others. I'll just say athletes in general, but women athletes in particular, have an amazing way of telling stories. And that comes from the fact that they wear different hats, to your point, Marianne. And when you make those stories human, it resonates, and it is very, very deep in connection. So I look forward to that.
Love it. Okay, you all have done a lot of these partnerships. You've had some really good ones and some really bad ones. Maybe you could pick a good or a bad one and tell us what you learned from it. Be transparent.
I'll let Alex go first. She's got this one.
You're so nice. Well, I think the good ones just weigh in on the input from the athlete. I think they let the athlete dictate while also giving direction. I think that when it's a blank slate, it's really hard because we're an athlete. We're not the ones that are supposed to come up with the creative, but at the same time, we want to be able to give our input and it be valued. And we want to show up at a shoot or a production day and know that we have the people on set that's going to make it efficient for our time. Because our time is extremely valuable. Standing on our feet all day is extremely valuable as an athlete. You got to make sure you're resting. And then in terms of the execution of that, where that's going to reach, what audience it's going to reach, that's extremely important as well, because you want to be able to continue to keep your main fans, but you also want to reach those ones that are the casual fan, that are the ones that are dipping their toes, that are like, well, I want to get to know this athlete more. So I think having those deep partnerships with those athletes and being able to dig in more maybe on history or future plans or what drives the athlete is extremely important without relying too much on the athlete to dictate the partnership.
I echo everything Alex said, and I think I'd just add, I know, and Adidas is getting the serious plug today, but one of the main things for me in my latter years was being in television. I saw a lot more, I would say, more women in front of the camera, but very few behind. And the production company, and the runners, and the producer, and the stage manager, and the camera woman, were important. And so Adidas made a promise that our crew would be represented in a diverse manner, whether it's people of color, whether it's women, whatever it is. And so I think being able to make that commitment to me, I think is important. And then the second thing for stuff that doesn't work, it's a cookie cutter approach. Like, Alex is way different than me. We're both athletes. We share that same drive and that same similar passion, but her life and her experience is so different. It's not cookie cutter. You can't just do that. And, you know, Alex spoke to something earlier. You can't just put female athletes in male positions and vice versa. It doesn't work that way. And so being able to be with brands that are open to, you know, conversation and having a seat at the table in the creative process, I think is super important.
I really love that call out of, like, sometimes people do translate, like, bring them in early, and you would like it if somebody showed up with something and you got to collaborate on it. Same with clients. They really like that too. Okay, down there, Ravi and Lara, you've been in women's sports from the beginning. Like, what have you learned along the way that has really changed?
Yeah, I mean, I think, like, with women, like, we've come a long way because of you. So thank you for using your voice. And what I know was we were very passionate about is you, and hey, I love all sports. I'm a fan of sports that men are playing too, but women tend to need help sometimes building their brand. And we, you know, we felt like that, wow, that is an opportunity for us. And so while I think, so we have come a long way, but I think we can still go farther. The fact that we're still saying women's sports and not just sports, that to me, when we just start saying sports, then we will have totally conquered, and you guys are the norm, not, hey, we're doing a women's sports panel. So Adobe can play a voice in that. I feel thrilled. It helps us support the products, but it's kind of what you were saying. There's a deeper meaning, and we've made progress. We need to make more, and I think we as brands need to support this and not shy away from it.
And to your question on what has changed, I think women athletes and women's sports are the best and top performing assets that are out there from a marketing perspective. It's because of all the reasons we have talked about. And I think it's time for brands, Marianne, to your point, to get on board. It's very important that we see the reach, the connection, and the value that these sports and these athletes bring to the table, and that I think is starting to get realized. It was not the case 2 to 3 years ago, but I think it's starting to get there, which is pretty exciting.
And I think they're seeing those results because what's happened is we've built real community. I was just blown away when Coco Gauff won, and she went on her press tour in New York, and she went to her first Liberty game. And it was just such an incredible moment when they put her on the Jumbotron and the entire stadium erupted in applause and a standing ovation for her. And she was so taken by it. But I was like, this is the difference. It's not a bunch of individual egos sitting there. It's people celebrating each other. I even think the way she handled the situation with Sabalenka, she handled it with such grace that it didn't turn into a battle and a fight. She set a tone of community. And guess what? Fess up when you mess up. We all have good days and bad days. There's a lot to learn. And we've created a community that allows you to be who you are and to learn along the way, to have grace doing that and give grace to other people. That is so valuable for the world as we move forward. Super fun. Okay. We started talking about this on the way out here, and it quickly derailed, so I imagine we'll talk about it for the rest of the time. But the reality is that our athletes are getting younger and younger and younger.
You're going off script.
The athletes are getting younger and younger with the NIL, with the opportunity to talk to these kids. We want to create an environment that is going to bring more success. That is what women's sports has done. We have done it in a way that allows more and more people, whether you're a fan, whether it's a league, whether you're an athlete, whether you're a brand, to show up and have more and more success. So from your perspective, how can we help this next generation? Like, the next generation really connects with women's sports for this reason. we now require them to start building their brand at a really young age, right? Everyone is in branding at this moment in time. That's a lot of pressure. It's a lot of responsibility. It's an added to-do when you're trying to become great at something. What would your words of wisdom be for these high school kids who are going into this change with the NIL and the college and with brands talking to them? What are your words of wisdom for them right now?
Your eyes went down there, so I thought that this was a question they were going to answer first. No, I think we've understood the power of visibility in the last 2 years. And I say that from a standpoint of we're talking about athletes getting younger and younger, but really I think NIL and the athletes being able to make money younger has actually impacted women's sports in a way that we've never seen. And I don't know if it would have been this quick had it not happened. Because athletes now, it's a price. Like, numbers don't lie, check the scoreboard, it's a price. And so you're able to see on Instagram the numbers and how much it generates and the endorsements and things like that and the visibility. You put the first NCAA women's game on television on ABC in prime time, and guess what? People watched it. Now, a lot had to do with who was playing, but you were able to follow the storyline. And to be honest with you, I think that the athletes becoming younger, you talk about, the LaMelo balls and things like that. Those were kind of the first high school male athletes that people followed from the time they were 13, 14 to now being pros. Well, guess what? That comes with a lot of responsibility, but it also comes with a lot of zeros. And because you're able to build your brand younger, you're able to make mistakes and go forward and build it better. Like, I think that now athletes, you talk about athletes starting companies and being able to have the power at the table, being able to make responsibilities. It's raised an entire league in the WNBA. The impact that NIL, having a dollar amount coming into the league. And so now I think it's, what are the pros going to do about it? How are we going to continue to raise the bar from a female perspective? Now, the pressure, the connection, obviously you're not who you are at 15, 16 years old and who you're going to be. But I think it's a process, and I think we all have to adjust. It right now is the wild, wild west in terms of the NCAA and the rules and NIL, but I don't think that we should limit younger athletes and what they can make and, making them a business at a younger age.
I also don't think we should penalize them when they mess up. Like, part of being a kid is that you are going to mess up, and we want to have brands and other athletes around them to help them learn how to move through that, because you do that on a public scale and it can have a tremendous effect in a positive way or a negative way.
Yeah, and I was just going to add too, like, when social media really kicked off, we had the time to be able to figure out, like, in what direction we wanted our social media to go, what we were passionate about outside of soccer, what we really wanted to lean into more. I think with a lot of kids now, teenagers, a lot is like pushed on them all at once. They're figuring out maybe their first pro contract, or they're a freshman in college, big student athlete, moving outside of their, childhood home and city, and all this is coming at once. So I think just like taking it slow sometimes and not diving in too fast, where you are going to be making too many mistakes. Social media, you can't really take anything back. So I think it's all about taking it slow and seeing what excites you, but not doing too much all at once. You're a teenager, be a teenager.
Yeah, totally agree. How are brands approaching this and thinking about it?
Well, when you talk about athletes and protecting them, no matter the age, and, I think you guys did a nice summary of what's happening with college sports. One of the things that we think deeply about, and I am going to plug Adobe a little bit, you guys will have to let me do a shameless plug, is like, you care about your IP too, and you care about how you show up. And so one thing that we need to be careful about with Gen AI is, Alex doesn't want to go and see herself that, something that her IP or your IP, Candace's IP, picked up and used by somebody. You want to be able to shape your brand and not have somebody taking it without, you earned it. You should get paid for it. And so, like, I will say with Adobe, we have our Gen AI Firefly, which you can all download the app. Again, I told you I was going to be shameless. Okay, I'm so sorry. At least I'm telling you. But we are not training on data that wasn't approved to be trained. It's IP protected. It's commercially safe. So I just say that because part of the journey that these athletes are on are people are like taking their stuff and making, taking something of them out of context. And, we want to make sure that we do you all justice.
I'll just add, 100% agree with that. I think it's very, very important that we protect the purity of the data and the IP and where it comes from and who gets attributed to that. And I think apart from the coaching aspect, I think there is an aspect of how brands can actually have a role to play in this, which is this generation has grown up digital native. They don't follow linear TV like the way we used to in almost like 10 years ago, right? And therefore, the way they think, the way they express, the way they tell stories is very, very different. And we as brands have to make sure that we keep that authenticity in place and let them tell the story the way they want, where they want, in the platform and the voice that they want. That to me is like paramount in how we get the authentic way of communicating and relating to the audience more than anywhere else. Otherwise, we will lose this very, very important moment.
Okay, we're closing it up here. We're down to our last minute. If you all could ask for anything from brands to move this thing forward faster, what would you ask for?
Oh, that's my cue. I feel like more intentional investment in women's sports, period. Just showing up, and if you don't have an idea of where you want to put those dollars, partnering with the right brands and the right athletes that can help give you a good direction on where to be able to put those dollars, because people want to see these athletes. People want to be able to hear, see, read about them. So it's just being intentional about how to be able to use them and how your brand's going to show up in the right way.
I think there's a separation of understanding that you have to give it time. I mean, the WNBA is 28 years young. NWSL is 15 years young. The NBA is 78 years. The MLB is 150 years. So actually, for a startup in the WNBA,
killing it.
It's been phenomenal when we've seen the actual true investment in the sport. So I challenge companies, why not be 50-50 with your investment in women's sports and male sports? Let's see. Let's just see what could happen. And so I think that has to be a real conversation, because we're afraid to go there, and really that's where the world's taken us. So I think why not?
I think that's it. Let's go 50-50. Equity seems like a pretty damn good deal. Thank you so much for joining us today. You all are amazing.